for today's Live on Live. We have the first of our US election specials with only one day to go before general voting gets underway to decide whether Democrat Hillary Clinton or Republican candidate Donald Trump will become the 45th president of the United States. Now, today I'm joined by representatives of both parties with me here in the studio. That's Dr. Marc Porter, the chairman of Republicans Abroad here in Paris. You're very welcome to the program, Marc.
Thank you. Nice to be here.
And Penny Schantz from Democrats Abroad, who was also the organizer of the Paris for Bernie group. You're very welcome to the program today.
Thank you, Dad.
Well, I'd like for us to take a look today over the past 18 months of campaigning in the United States, but also to look into the past to better understand where exactly we are today. Now, 8 years ago this week, Barack Obama made history by being elected on a platform of change as the first African American to take the helm of the world's most powerful country. And of course, he was helped along with that iconic image of hope following the previous mandates of George W. Bush. And that also, we saw a US electorate that was mobilized to change the status quo of the Bush administration, be it wars in Afghanistan, be it Iraq, oil dependency on Saudi Arabia, massive prices at the pump. But now, 8 years on in 2016, and I'm going to put this to Marc first, the United States has never been divided. What happened?
Well, Obama won. I think that's the problem.
It's all down to one man, you believe?
No, of course not. But clearly this idea that we have more wars now than we did under the Bush administration. We have worse unemployment. We have worse everything, that everyone is angry. Democrats are angry. Bernie Sanders showed that very clearly. Republicans are furious because, well, the insults that we've had to be submitted to in the last 8 years, the idea of insult after insult and disrespect after disrespect. How can you work with someone like this? Clearly, 2 years of hope and change of Obama changed to the Republican waves in the midterms elections. And not only that, in the local levels, we have more governors, we have more seats in the House of Representatives, we have more state legislatures than we've had since 1924. So there was clearly a Republican wave building for a long time, and we thank Obama for that.
But do you also not think that it was because of both houses of Congress that were blocking Obama in a lot of his during his mandate? There were a lot of things that should have been pushed forward that he wasn't able to do that could have been more globally acceptable to the American people.
Globally acceptable. I completely just agree with you, and that's why the Republicans were voted in, because Obamacare was not globally accepted. And this idea that, well, an opposition, their job is to oppose. This is their job. And if you have a talented commander-in-chief, a talented president, they can negotiate, they can get through. The Democrats, of course, had their own governmental shutdowns under Tip O'Neill, and Reagan, a very talented politician, was able to overcome that, reach out across the aisle, work with the opposition, and that's something that Obama's clearly failed at for a long time.
Now, over to Penny Schantz now from Democrats Abroad. Penny, I mean, we have to say, as Marc just said there now, America hasn't been more divided in a long time. And I mean, Obama did come in, whether you were for him or against him, be it right or left of the political divide, Obama did come in and promising change. Do you believe that it was the man himself that didn't push the change, or because he was hamstrung from the outset?
Well, let's go back to 2008 and look at what President Obama did inherit. The Democrats inherited a mess from the Republicans, and it's extremely difficult to recover from the 2008 financial earthquake and the subsequent obstructionist Republican agenda. But I want to get back to the earlier part of your question and the divisions that we're seeing in American society today, which are so troubling, and this campaign as epitomized by it. We have the most obscene level of wealth inequality in generations. We've seen a 40-year decline of the middle class, people working longer hours for lower wages, the impact of globalization on the loss of jobs. But what is most disturbing is beyond disagreement with Trump on individual issues, and I disagree with him on quite a few issues. The cornerstone and the divisions that are being deepened in our society as a result of how he's campaigned. The cornerstone of Trump's campaign is scapegoating and bigotry. And as Americans, We can disagree on so many issues, but we've come too far, and too many people have gone to jail, and too many people have died in the struggle for equal rights. Now, Trump has brought bigotry, hate, and white supremacy out into the open and has mobilized the most dangerous cultural tendencies in society at large. Now, a Trump victory, I believe, threatens the very nature of civil society.
Now, Penny, I would just like to, and also to Mark, I would just like to say, indeed, the mudslinging that has come up about, especially in the end of this campaign, where you had, of course, I have a sound here of Hillary Clinton. This is sound number 4, where she remarked upon the Trump, should I say, electorate being deplorable.
You know, to just be grossly generalistic, you could put half of Trump's supporters into what I call the basket of deplorables. They're racist, sexist, homophobic, xenophobic, Islamophobic, you name it. And unfortunately, there are people like that. And he has lifted them up.
Now, one could say that this blew up in her face. Yep. A lot of people said, Clinton, this was the same establishment arrogance that we wanted to fight against, because we're not all gun-toting hicks who want to go out of the rallies, who have, of course, which we see the images of, a very, very vitriolic fan base, one can say, who are out there and they're pushing media, they're pushing black people, Hispanics out. But this blew up in Clinton's face. Why do you think that this actually played in Trump's favor?
Well, you can't keep insulting us. This is something that's ridiculous, as my compatriot here just did. This is unacceptable also. The reason Trump is fighting back is because he's fighting back. Look at my colleague here. She's got anti-Trump paraphernalia on herself. You can't keep fighting and hitting us and hitting us and hitting us without people hitting back.
Mm-hmm. Well, now I have another clip here that, I mean, one of the first topics that the Trump bandwagons jumped on was, of course, immigration. Now, just as we'd like to have a little clip there of Donald Trump on immigration.
Nearly 180,000 illegal immigrants with criminal records ordered deported from our country are tonight roaming free to threaten peaceful citizens. The number of new illegal immigrant families who have crossed the border so far this year already exceeds the entire total from 2015. They are being released by the tens of thousands into our communities with no regard for the impact on public safety or resources.
And you can hear it there. That was the chant that really has marked the campaign of Donald Trump. It's build that wall, building a wall between Mexico and the United States. Now, one really has to say, I mean, I'm impartial here. Can we not truly say that both campaigns had their strategy? One was division, the other was unity. Build that wall versus united together. What do you say?
I think we're the united campaign. Absolutely. You have to unite the American people. This continuation of illegal immigration, which is different than immigration. I know the Democrats have been very, very talented to say that immigration equals illegal immigration, but this is not true. So this idea that we need to unify the American people, unlike the Democrats who like to put everyone into demographic boxes and divide everyone, then they can control as they've conquered and divided. This has to stop.
Now, Penny.
Yeah. Just a couple of words first on the earlier point. I don't believe, like Bernie, who also agrees with this, that most of the people who are thinking about voting for Mr. Trump are racist or sexist. Some of them are, but most of them are people who are hurting. They're worried about their kids. They're worried about not keeping up in this economy. Now, our job, and what you're seeing from the Clinton campaign, which is it's the closing message of her campaign, is that our job is to reach out to them and to all Americans and to tell them we're going to create an economy that works for all of us and not just an oligarchy. On immigration, Clinton's position is supporting comprehensive immigration reform with a path to full and equal citizenship. And she'll go even further, because if Congress won't act, she's going to defend President Obama's executive orders and go further to keep families together, not to divide them. She'll end family detention. She'll close private immigration detention centers. And she's going to help more eligible people become naturalized.
Now, Penny Schantz and Dr. Marc Porter, I just have a little clip. I just want to see, where can the two sides meet here? This is a clip from President Ronald Reagan back in 1984, who was debating against his then challenger, Walter Mondale.
But it is true our borders are out of control. It is also true that this has been a situation on our borders back through a number of administrations. And I supported this bill. I believe in the idea of amnesty for those who have put down roots and who have lived here, even though some time back they may have entered illegally. With regard to the employer sanctions, we must have that, not only to ensure that we can identify the illegal aliens, but also, while some keep protesting about what it would do to employers, there is another employer that we shouldn't be so concerned about. And these are employers down through the years who have encouraged the illegal entry into this country, because they then hire these individuals and hire them at starvation wages and with none of the benefits that we think are normal and natural for workers in our country. And the individuals can't complain because of their illegal status.
Now, listening to the voice of Ronald Reagan 32 years on, and listening to what vitriol has come out on both sides during the campaign in 2016, surely this man almost looks like a liberal. He comes across as a liberal in what he was saying 32 years ago. What has changed?
Well, a couple of things. One, Reagan said that he made a mistake on that. This idea that there should have been harsher sanctions on employers. And just as Penny has said, the oligarchs are controlling our country. They're donating to the Clinton Foundation. Clinton is the master of the oligarchs.
But is Trump not quite fascinated by oligarchs?
Actually, if you listen to Trump very closely, he said that he's participated in these. He was a Democrat and he finds it wrong and we need to change it, which is one reason that we have so many Democrats that are coming over to the Republican side this time. But Mr. Reagan did make a huge mistake in this idea of not putting enough sanctions on employers. So they're encouraging this. Dividing families, sending children across the border because they think they can get in and get an anchor into for the rest of their family, that divides families. We have to unify our country. We also can't drain the talent from other countries like El Salvador, Guatemala, Nicaragua. We can't drain these countries of their talent. We have to rebuild those countries as well, and it's their responsibility to stay in their country and help build their countries again. Otherwise, you're going to have a brain drain.
Brain drain.
Brain drain. Thank you. I'm having one myself right now.
But couldn't one say that it's because of the proxy wars of the 1980s that those Central American countries are actually in the state that they're in today?
Well, they're better than they were then, because I was living in Honduras at that time, and Mr. Tim Kaine almost got me killed. So I have no affinity with those people down there creating more trouble. And you're absolutely right. If we had rebuilt Central America with a Marshall Plan, like we did with Europe and Asia, if we had rebuilt Russia with a Marshall Plan, we would be much better off. And it was Clintons that were in charge of that, and they failed then, and they'll fail again.
I could go on a bit with this about saying why is Tegucigalpa like more dangerous now than it was 20 years ago when it was much closer?
I can explain that. San Pedro Sula also.
I know San Pedro Sula as well, and I know it all up north. But now, I'm sorry, I want to keep on point here. Tomorrow, the polls are opening. What about the platforms? Division versus unity. Make America great again versus united together. Let's look at the effects here. what are people voting for in foreign policy? Peggy.
Okay, well, on a few things. First, let's talk about the platform, and I think I have a little more time given. Okay, on the platform, the Sanders campaign led to shaping the most progressive platform in recent history in the Democratic Party, including a $15 per hour minimum wage, free higher education, commitment to overturn Citizens United, expansion of Social Security, criminal justice reform, abolishing the death penalty, more strict regulations on Wall Street, establishing a multimillionaire surtax. And what we're looking at in terms of what people are really voting for tomorrow is they're voting to create jobs by rebuilding a crumbling infrastructure, to enact paid family and medical leave, to nominate justices to the Supreme Court who are prepared to overturn Citizens United in the buying of elections by the wealthiest Americans. They're voting, when they're voting for Clinton also, to defend a woman's right to choose, to defend workers' rights, the rights of the LGBT community, the needs of minorities and immigrants, and the government's ability to protect the environment. That's what they're voting on when they're voting for Clinton. One word on what they're voting against. What they're voting against is terrifying, totally unpredictable candidate who stands for supporting torture, reckless war, unchecked greed, hatred of women, immigrants, refugees, people of color, and people with disabilities. And they're voting against someone who's been shown to be a sexual predator, a business fraud, running on a promise to destroy millions of immigrant families
clearly doesn't understand Mr.
and
Trump.
to jail his political opponent.
Absolutely
so what
false.
we are putting forward tomorrow as a choice is one of a positive vision to recreate hope for Americans versus what I just described.
Well, Penny, I just want to ask a quick question here. In your opinion, do you believe that Donald Trump was the accidental candidate? I mean, there are some pundits that maintain that he didn't think he'd get so far, including filmmaker Michael Moore, for example, who's just calling him just to step aside. What is your opinion on that? Do you think that he really wants to be where he is today?
I don't have a strong opinion on that, frankly, but it's interesting you mentioned Michael Moore, because Michael Moore has actually come out now supporting Hillary Clinton, something I also thought I would never see. Okay. That tells you something.
Now, what about yourself, Marc? Do you believe that Trump never believed he would actually get through the primaries to this point? As many people are saying, well, he hasn't been prepared. He doesn't really have policies that he can really focus on.
He has a lot of policies. He's very prepared.
Well, the main policy is, it'll be great, vote for me, it'll be great.
Absolutely not. No, not at all. You can go to our website. You can see all of our policies. I know the Democrats have said that. I see they're very influential with you. But in fact, that doesn't.
I mean, I'm trying to be as impartial as possible. This is also what one sees on social media, what one sees on both sides of the media, saying, well,
no, I can give you better sources if you like.
Sure,
give me a call. We'll give you better sources on that. We'll get you up to speed.
But do you think that he really realized that it was going to go this far? Like, how come people like John Kasich, Ted Cruz, Marco Rubio, how come they didn't beat him at the fence? Was it just because of his ego?
They were worse candidates than he was. He was an excellent candidate. Throughout the whole primary season, it was very exciting to watch him pull together so many diverse people within the Republican Party and outside the Republican Party. The idea, as Trump sees the world, we have three major problems that the American people have to focus on. We have the idea of globalization, and globalization has its limits. We agree with most French people on this, and Democrats don't. The Clinton Foundation, the Democrats believe in unlimited open borders globalization that causes a lot of damage here. The second part is an illegal immigration, just as we've seen in France and throughout Europe. The idea, if you have illegal, uncontrolled immigration, this is dangerous, and the people should decide. The third part is about robots and automation, which the Clinton Foundation is advancing so that, in fact, they're replacing workers, they're making unemployment rise on these.
Penny, I want to give you the last word on this. I mean, we're going to the polls tomorrow. America still remains divided on both sides of the spectrum. What has to be done over the next mandate of whoever is president?
Well, the first task is to defeat Trump and to elect Clinton president. After that, we're looking at putting forward a progressive agenda for a positive America. Bernie has started this with Our Revolution, which is an organization he's created that goes beyond the campaign, and it links social and economic justice movements with electoral change. And what we'll be doing is supporting popular economics and defeating TPP, but number one task, defeat Trump tomorrow.
Okay, Penny Schantz from Democrats Abroad and Dr. Marc Porter, the chairman of Republicans Abroad, both of you here in Paris. Thank you very much for being on Paris Live PM this Monday, the 7th of November, just 24 hours ahead of the presidential elections in the United States. That's all we have on Paris Live PM for you today. Thank you very much.